Hi, I'm Mike Crabb.
And I'm Laurie Schultz. Welcome to the show.
We'll have some caffeinated conversation.
And maybe some special guests along the way.
Who knows where the conversation will go? You're out for coffee with Mike and Laurie. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Out for Coffee.
With Mike and Laurie.
Thank you very much for... She's Laurie. Thank you very much for joining us for another week of some fun. How have you been, Laurie?
I've been well, Michael. And how about yourself?
Oh, I've been wonderful. You know how it is. You got your giant carafe of coffee with you again today, or did you just come by the cup?
I do. Of course I do. And you know what else I have with me today?
What?
Just in case. Here's the crinkle sound. Look at this. I don't know if you can't see. If you're just listening, I've got a giant bag of the mini eggs.
Yeah. I don't know if it's big enough.
It's a 1 kilogram bag. Oh, 943 grams. Close enough.
So that would probably last me a weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Cavities and diabetes.
Oh, that's just part of the fun, isn't it?
Sure. It's all part of the experience.
You're right.
Cavities, diabetes, and mini eggs.
So, Laurie, in one of our previous episodes, we had talked about what makes us weird.
Yeah.
And part of that conversation, we got to, actually right near the end, we started kind of touching on some of the more interesting weird things that we can't really explain.
Right.
And I know you and I have a couple stories maybe we could share, but I'm very excited to say that this has inspired us to invite a special guest in to join us today. So
Yes.
So before we introduce our special guest, do you have a quick little anecdote that you want to share about such a topic?
Well, yeah, you were saying something about you would wake up and there'd be like somebody at the end of your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdo.
So specifically, there's one. Yeah. So I often throughout the years, not as much anymore. It was like a lot of my 20s, I would wake up and there'd be different things. Like I remember one night I woke up, this is when I was in Toronto, I woke up and I was like sweating and panicking because the bed was filled with cats. I just woke up and there's all these cats around me like crawling over me. Yeah, I was just spending the night at Laurie's. Yeah. But I woke up with this extreme panic because why is there cats? And the second I'm up and I'm out of the bedroom and I'm like, what is going on? And I turn around. There are no cats in the bed. There ain't nothing like that at all. But like things like this happen. And specifically one time I had woke up. So my friend Sarah, she had gotten married. And the very next morning, I remember going home and I went to bed and I woke up. And it was probably about 6 a.m. It was daylight out because some light was bleeding through the blinds a bit. But I remember as I was waking up, I opened my eyes to the image of this old, gaunt, and just scraggly grayed hair woman. And she's all gray. And she's pulling the bed sheets off of me. Like the bed sheets are literally coming off of me. You best believe I had a heart attack, and same thing. I'm like up, I ran downstairs. I was ready to get out of the house because I have never been more freaked out than I was in that moment. And it was very unsettling. And then you get that like, okay, I'm awake now. What is actually going on? It's all in my head and all that stuff. And I think what actually happened is Kevin maybe rolled over and had pulled the sheets off of me when he was rolling over. And maybe that had woken me up. But I can still, to this day, very vividly see this just gray woman. I don't know how else to describe her, as a gray woman pulling these sheets off of me. That has stuck with me forever.
Freaky.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that because I grew up with sleep paralysis. I don't know if you know about sleep paralysis or if anybody out there has heard of that or experienced it, because it was horrifying. Even as a little kid, that's when it started. And if you don't know about it, it's when your brain clicks awake before your body does. While we're sleeping, we actually get paralyzed, so we don't act out our dreams.
You're right.
And there's like a disconnect with sleep paralysis where your body is still paralyzed and your brain has just overshot a little bit and has come to life before it should have.
Right.
So you're actually paralyzed. And in this situation, that's when you can hallucinate because you're still somewhat in a dream state, right? You're not fully awake.
You're not awake, you're not asleep.
Right. And so it would happen to me all the time where I couldn't move. Like I was pinned to the bed and I couldn't scream. I could only kind of dart my eyes back and forth. And there was a sense of something just bad, like scary in the room. And I remember telling my mom that I was afraid to go to sleep. And I would hear this noise and it sounded like a train in my head. It would be like, choo, choo, choo. And I later found out that's actually the sound of your blood flow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear your own heartbeat.
So you're like right in your head. Yeah, it's weird. So weird. And years later, like I still get it occasionally, but now I know what it is. Okay. And now I know how to combat it.
Right.
Where when it's starting to happen, I just will myself to go back to sleep. And as soon as I fall back asleep, then it's not a problem. But I used to fight it. And the more I would fight it, the more afraid I'd get. I lost a lot of sleep growing up because of this.
I can imagine.
Yeah, scary, scary stuff. And I found out later my brother actually went through this a few times as well. Not the same as me, not to the same amount of times, but he also went through it.
He dabbled in paralysis. That's great.
He dabbled in sleep paralysis. I became a pro, but he just does it on weekends in his free time. But there's other reasons now why I wake up in the middle of the night.
Why is that?
Well, you've been in my house.
Uh-huh.
Everywhere I've ever lived, I've had some guests, uninvited maybe, or maybe I'm the uninvited guest. I don't know.
Maybe.
I do believe in ghosts. I will not apologize for that. And if you don't believe in it, well, too bad for you. Because that's what we're going to talk about, some really cool stuff today.
Yeah.
And somebody else who I know believes, who's been in this house and who's basically told me what's going on in this house, is our guest today. And her name is Tania Thomas. And she's fantastic. And she is a psychic medium. I am a psychic large. I'm a psychic medium. And I'd like to bring her on out.
Yeah, come on out. Yeah, come on out. Join us.
She's coming. Rob's bringing her in. Tech Wizard Rob is bringing her in. Yeah. Tania!
Hey, how are you, Tania?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us because Laurie and I have, over the years, have shared a lot of our stories about the unknown and the supernatural and what it means and what it doesn't mean and what it's fun to pretend it means and all those sorts of things. And I'm really glad that you came on today because I've had the honor to not only meet you before, but to have you do a reading for me a couple different times. And one of the first time, actually the first time I met you was at Laurie's house, and we did a group reading together.
Yeah.
And my biggest takeaway from that, this is early in me and Laurie knowing each other, but you had let us know that one day Laurie and I would be working more together. And I thought that was already happening like after that, but this has come since. And so I'm really glad that we're growing together. And now looking back, it's really interesting to see how you
I'm really glad too.
Thank you. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So tell us a bit about what it is you do. In a sentence, just wrap it up for us. Yeah.
In a sentence. As my Instagram, my Instagram handle kind of says it, I always say that dead people see me. Great. So, and then they like to talk to me. So, yeah.
So what do you do? So actually, let's go back a little bit further. So you obviously have some abilities that maybe not everyone has experienced or maybe choose not to experience because of their beliefs and stuff. So when did you start to feel that you had something?
Oh, heavens. I was always odd. I was always different. I was always that kid I was always very introverted. So you would very typically not find me hanging around with humans. I didn't really like humans so much, to be honest with you. So it's been there ever since birth, literally, because to me, it always felt normal. It wasn't unusual for me to see different things or to hear different things. It was common, but it was at the age of 9 when it actually kind of came, when I realized, okay, hang on a second here. I'm different because they didn't see that. Do you know what I mean? Or
right.
They just gave me a strange look. And it was actually the night that I had a dog named Shane. He was a huge collie, big collie. And I had one and my sister had one. And my sister's was Taffy. I believe it was Taffy. I could be wrong on that. But her collie somehow managed to lift the latch on the kennel that was outside. We lived in Dorchester, and my big collie got out. I didn't know that. I was asleep. I woke up around 2:33 in the morning, and I remember distinctly getting up out of bed. I was being pulled towards the window for some reason. So I just got up and went to the window. And as I went to the window, looked across the road, and I could see Shane standing on the other side of the road staring up at the window. And I remember thinking, if anybody that's ever been into Dorchester, it was over near the train tracks.
Right.
So there's a bend. And I remember thinking at that point, I was only a kid, and all I could think was, oh my gosh, my dog's across the street. If a car comes around the corner, he's going to get hit. So I tore off out of my room, went running down the stairs, and I'll distinctly always remember the sound of I had those rubber feet pajamas on, and I'll always remember those going down the steps. And I flew into the kitchen, and my mom was standing there. And it struck me for a second. I was like, why is she standing in the kitchen at this time of the morning? And I said to her, I said, Mom, we have to get Shane. He's outside. He's going to get run over. We have to get him. And I remember the look she gave me. She gave me this look like absolute, what are you talking about? And then it was only after that I discovered that she told me that my dad was burying him. My dad was burying the dog under the tree. He'd already been hit.
Oh, no.
So what I had seen, and it was my mom's look. It was a look on her face that really kind of got me to thinking, is there something different here? Is there something strange about me? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Yeah, so that was a defining moment. That was the absolute defining moment, was right then.
Interesting. So when you say, you felt you were different than, you felt you were different and you could feel these things around you. When you say feel, like, what does that mean to you? Like, when you feel, go ahead.
So in terms of like feeling different things around me, so I can feel the presence of different thought processes around me or different emotions around me that aren't mine. They don't belong to me.
Okay.
One of the most distinct things with me that I should mention too is a visual thing. And it actually started when I was very, very young. And I remember I would never want to sleep in the dark because of this, but I didn't know what it was and nobody could explain it to me. But I would go to bed at night and they would turn off the lights in my room. And our bedroom doors were always shut. Our doors were always shut. They were never open. And the light would go off and I would just be dozing off to sleep and open my eyes because I would have this sense of something coming close to me. And when I would open my eyes and look up at my head, I would have all of this movement on the ceiling.
Huh.
I used to describe it to people as it looks like a whole bunch of different insects and wings and things moving. And I remember as a kid thinking, there's seriously something wrong with my head here.
Yeah. What else do you think? Because that's not normal, right? Like, it's quote unquote not normal.
Exactly. But what it was the energy, the spirit side energy. And I say this to people a lot. If they do see this kind of movement as they're drifting off to sleep, that kind of stuff, it's very typical to see that because it does have a tendency to move very much like a whole bunch of dragonflies in the same space.
Huh.
It's really, really, really strange. And that's the one thing that always stood out with me. And I used to lay there with the light on thinking, don't turn off the light, don't turn off the light. So I was always terrified of the dark, petrified of the dark. Huh. Always.
How do you feel about the dark now?
Oh, now I'll sit there and meditate, complete blackout, total blackout. Because I'm comfortable with it now, right? It doesn't bother me anymore because I understand what it is. In fact, I actually kind of invite it in. Right. Not most nights because I'd like to sleep, but it's there.
Nice. So when did you and Laurie meet?
Oh, gosh, Laurie, when did we meet? I think you came for a reading, didn't you?
Yeah, it's funny because one day, just out of the blue, and I think this is how the universe works, one day at my mom's house, I was alone, she was on vacation, I was taking care of her cats, and it just popped into my head to Google London, Ontario psychics.
Okay.
And I thought,
and there I was.
Okay, you were the first name that popped up. And I saw that there was a testimonial from Alison Dubois.
Right.
And if you guys don't know who Alison Dubois is, a famous psychic who they made a TV show about. Remember the show Medium, Patricia Arquette?
Yes, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Where she worked with the FBI. That's Alison Dubois, like the real psychic is the real person. Yeah. And she did a testimonial about Tania's abilities.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, interesting. That's
Very
somebody
cool.
I should probably contact.
That's so and she did.
I did. I booked right there. Yeah. I just online booked a reading and just showed up all Tanya had was my first name. And
Yeah.
I showed up to where she lived at the time and had an incredible reading and left thinking, what the hell just happened? That
So
was
Laurie,
pretty awesome.
so Laurie,
Yeah.
you've had readings before. So what was different about Tanya that made you, because you continuously go back to her?
Just such obscure things that, like, I know people are always thinking, oh, well, somebody can just Google you and find
course.
out things about you.
Yeah.
Well, but the stuff that Tanya was coming out with, there's no way, like, it's not on Google, it's not on Facebook. It's just really weird, obscure, personal things that not even like friends and family might know.
Mm-hmm.
So how she would be consistently bang on with things, I was just blown away.
Interesting. So I will admit that I'm a skeptic, and I
So
think
was I.
most people should be, right? Like
Of course.
you
yeah.
need to you need to question what's
should
going
be.
on. Now, here was my takeaway too. Was my first time with meeting Tanya. It was a group reading,
Right.
and I had never, like, I've seen it like on TV and stuff like that, but to experience it was a very different thing. So, Tanya, when you do a group reading, there was probably at least 10 people there when I was there. How do you manage that energy in the room?
I focus in on one energy at a time. I really do. So, I can be talking to you, focusing on your energy. I can have, Laurie's dad trying to horn his way in, which he tries to do quite a bit, actually.
That makes sense.
And it's just
That sounds about
basically a
right.
case- yeah. It's just basically a case with me of I just kind of have to get them into a space behind me, and it's like you're going to have to wait your turn. And some of them do get a little bit ornery about that, I'll be honest with you. But it's simply, if you want to have a discussion with me or if you want to make a connection, you will wait your turn. It's kind of like lining up kids at a kindergarten door. It's crazy sometimes.
Interesting.
Right? But it is basically, it's all wrapped around control. So when I am focused in on your energy, I am focused in on your energy, and nothing else is going to disconnect that. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of go into a tunnel vision type of a thing,
Right.
where nothing else is coming in. It's just not.
Interesting. Now, in part of your process, I notice you will often have like a notebook with you and pens,
Yeah.
and you do. I don't know if there's any like reason behind it, but it seems like you're swirling and you're constantly drawing. How does that help your process?
So the actual act of the pen and the paper and that kind of stuff, I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one reason is I can pull into your energy with your first name just by letting the pen go loose like this. A lot of people call it automatic writing. I don't get a lot of words and that kind of stuff that pops up. Every now and then I'll get symbols, but I do it to allow the spirit side to kind of make a channel connection with me. So it distracts me. It's a distractionary measure. You know how when you were a kid, you sit there in class and you doodle on your binder, distractionary, right? And you
Right.
wouldn't even hear half of what the teacher said 9 times out of 10. You were gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it
Wait
is
a minute.
distractionary thing.
Is that what's happening in the classroom?
That's what's
What?
happening in your classroom. The second reason that I do it is because the spirit side is very, very, very tactile with me, meaning that they have a tendency sometimes to want to get too close. And it doesn't mean they can jump into my physical body. I don't want anybody out there freaking out. It doesn't work like that. And if somebody tells you it does, they're not telling you the truth. Okay?
Right.
But when they get too close to me, they can manifest with me different things that they used to like to do. They can manifest with me the way that they passed. And I don't want to be talking to someone and suddenly find myself in the middle of someone's stroke. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I would lose my mouth. I wouldn't have the ability to talk. On the other side of that, if I'm doing a live event, because you've seen the live events at the theater, of course.
Absolutely.
If I'm doing the live event, I don't have the piece of paper and the pen in front of me. So it's easier for them to kind of do that to me. And you'll see me dancing on the stage because grandma loved to dance. But yeah, the second part of it is basically to kind of keep a little bit of a separation between me and them because they don't like it. They hate it when I do this.
Right.
They don't
So
like it.
that was actually going to be my next question, is because when so Laurie had arranged to have you as our special event coordinator at Theater Woodstock. Laurie had arranged, initially it was one show, but you've done 2 with us now. But when I went to that first show, I was very interested to know what was going to be difference between a full live audience as opposed to a private sitting. And one of the things I noticed is that you didn't have your notebook on you, and I was kind of curious about that. So I'm glad you answered that.
Yeah.
Now, to kind of dive a little bit more into that too, was as an audience member who has participated in a similar thing with you before, I wanted to just be an observer of this show, and I didn't raise my hand to have a reading. And I sat back, and what I love so much about Theatre Woodstock is the community behind it. And so a lot of people in that audience are people that I know and maybe I've grown up with or worked with before. So my personal understanding of a lot of people in the audience is pretty goes back a while. So to have you up on the stage, who has no rhyme or reason in the audience of who these people are or why they chose their seats and stuff like that, for you to pick people out of the audience and your readings and what you were able to share with them, that's when my skeptic side was like, I'm being challenged, because the amount of detail, like Laurie was saying, you would say the oddest things that would only ring true if you knew. And so I was very impressed, and dare I say weirded out in the best ways of what this is. And here's why I love it, is for those skeptics out there, this is my takeaway, is look at what is being shared and the amount of those people that were looking for some connection. Even if it was hooey, what you're sharing with them means so much to them, and it's able to help them heal and build. And I thought that was wonderful. So do you have any do you find it more challenging to do a smaller group or a bigger group?
No, not necessarily. I find it more challenging doing one-on-one, to be honest with you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about the energy of a room full of people, because they all get connected into the reading with them. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it pulls up the energy in the room. The energy in the room goes up when you've got laughter happening, or if you've got people sitting 4 rows behind, dabbing their face because they're crying. It all kind of connects into that energy, into the spirit energy. It's beautiful. But what I wanted to say about the whole throwing things out there, that's one of the things I like to share with people if they're considering going this path, or if they're considering actually looking at mediumship as a career. You have to give it the way that you get it. Don't pepper it down, don't change it. Doesn't matter if it makes no sense to me at all. Doesn't matter if it makes any sense to the people that are 5 or 6 rows behind. What matters is it makes sense to the person that's hearing it. Right. That's it. That's all that matters.
Interesting.
So
and
when you were
don't
saying about
ask
some of it,
if you don't want to know.
Exactly. Don't ask if you don't want to know.
Don't know.
No, don't ever ask. Right.
Well, I think it's really interesting and inspiring to see the stories you can share with people and what it does to them. I think is a beautiful thing, and I really admire your abilities. I think it's fun, and I'm sure is it at times. I'm sure it is fun for you. Is it an awful thing to have to live with?
Sometimes it's hard. If I'm connecting into someone who has a missing child, or little Tori Stafford was a very good example, because unfortunately, not only can I tap into those that have passed, I can tap into the living. So I can tap into the energy of those people that have actually perpetrated these crimes. And I kind of unfortunately get to see things through their eyes or through their vision. And that can be an uncomfortable thing. That can be very uncomfortable. So I don't tend to make those public. I don't tend to publicize that very much if I'm doing something like that. If I'm working with a family member and somebody's missing and there's a suicide that's involved, that kind of stuff can be very uncomfortable, because then I have to share with the family what it is that I am picking up, even if they don't want to hear it.
Right.
So that does make it hard. So the fun stuff, the big groups, the theaters, we do get our share of really, really painful experiences and painful readings, but there's a nice balance here, because you always get, the grandpa that I had one time that popped in and said that he was there during the conception of his grandson's baby. I just about fell off the stage. So, stuff like that, that's the stuff that kind of lifts it up. So there's a nice balance in that type of environment.
Right. And I'm also a believer in even the difficult things, the growth that can come from it.
Of course.
Yeah. It's difficult, but some people need that opportunity to grow out of that.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
I think that's very cool. Is this something since you were 9, is this something you knew was going to change your life forever, or did you have did you have other plans?
I became a nurse. Oh no, I wasn't doing this. when I was a kid, don't forget, so I started going to the Spiritualist Church in London in 1970, just a minute here, 78, 79.
Okay.
Sounds like 40,000 years ago. Back when I started going to the Spiritualist Church, I went with my mom. My mom is very, very highly tuned in, but she'll never tell you that because she's, you know, this proper little British lady and she knits and she doesn't talk about this stuff. But when I started going there, it was the same 10 people every week for 5 years. It never ever changed. You didn't talk about this kind of stuff back then. You didn't
Right.
do that. Not unless you were in an environment where you felt safe to share it, right?
Right.
But for me, no, I went into nursing. No, I just followed the empathic part. I followed the intuition part and that need to be close to, people towards the end of their life. I just felt that need to be there. It was either that or I was going to be a funeral director. It was just, I couldn't decide.
Right. There's a need for both.
There is a need for both, right? So I knew I needed to do something where I was connecting into the energy of people or connecting intuitively or trying to help them from an intuitive angle. But, to wind up where I am, oh no, I did not see that coming. I went from the last 10 years of my nursing career, I was in psychiatric nursing. So I went from drugging people because they were seeing things and hearing things to here we are.
Right.
I mean,
Irony.
Even happen, right? And I mean, that's a whole story all to itself. And I thank the Donnellys for that story. And Laurie knows that entire story, of course.
Ooh,
But
we could have a whole series of Tanya stories.
on that part. Yeah. So no, I did not plan for this to be my life. Absolutely not. I am not an extrovert.
Right.
I am not the type of person that can get up there and talk to a room full of people. The last time I stood up in a classroom setting was grade 5. And I was doing a science project presentation on bats. It was awful. I stuttered all the way through it. I just wanted to curl up and just cry on the floor. I don't talk to people. That's not who I am. So this whole energy of me getting up on the stage and being able to so fluidly do that isn't me. That is me stepping out. I step out. And I let the spirit side kind of take over. That is not who I am.
Well, and when you're saying you're up on the stage and you're kind of you get into it, it's hard to explain over a podcast, but from my experience as an audience member, you're not kidding. You're very you were swayy. And at first I was kind of what is this lady doing? And you're walking in circles and you're pulling things out of the air. And I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, all this beautiful insight goes out to one of the audience members when you're sharing with them what you're feeling and seeing and hearing. And it just it's an art. It was very cool to see you do what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. I tend to not like to watch the playback. Because
that's relatable. I get that.
The swaying kind of part, very often that movement part with me is, I've got 10-year-old Tommy over here who wants to connect and he won't leave me alone. So I keep trying to get away from him. So I keep shifting over the stage, right? Do you know what I mean?
It's in place of the circling.
It's in place of the actual circling and the going around. But yeah, a lot of it, I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm doing it. Somebody will send me something on playback and I'm like, why did I do that? I don't, or I'll see somebody that's working with me, Sarah, on a couple of occasions from the back of the room going,
jaw drop. Yeah.
That'll kind of connect me to what am I doing up here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really is. It's half the time when I'm up there moving around, it's not me. I'm stepping out of it. I'm just going over to where they are.
Very cool.
It's weird.
Well, if I can tell you what I appreciate is I run a paranormal society at the high school where I teach.
Yeah.
And Tanya has been very gracious and very willing to volunteer some time to work with those kids in just sharing her gift and showing the kids how they can tune into their own gifts and doing some experiments and at the school. Or I remember the one time we went over to Theatre Woodstock and we did some experiments there and some in the Paranormal Society actually got a chance to come to one of those live events that you did there to do some ushering and just to be part of the whole scene, the whole vibe,
Yeah.
and to run the Kleenex boxes up and down the aisles because there's lots of tears, happy and otherwise sometimes. And just the fact that you're willing to share your gifts with the kids. Because that's not like that's a new thing. Like that's not something that's been widely accepted.
No.
But if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So I
It's
built
getting
it.
much more. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's awesome that you actually created that club the way that you did. And I think it's so important that the younger generation learn how to tap into their own intuitive strengths, you know, make their choices going forward. Understand that even though some choices may not ultimately turn out to be the right choice, it is the right choice to get them to where they're going.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think my favorite part of that actually was in the theater when I had them doing mirror work and half of them ran down the hallway. That was hysterically funny. They were so much fun that day. We had the best time.
Yeah,
They're a
good
great
times.
group. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Tania, I do have a question for you. So, I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who has woken up and seen a thing or a person or something. Is that something I should be scared of?
Never.
Okay, why?
No.
I really want to be scared of Gray Face Lady.
Great face lady.
She's been in the back of my mind ever since, like, that was like 9 years ago, I think. She's been always back
Oh my
there.
goodness. I love it. Those that connect to you on the spirit side, they never come to connect to you out of a place of malice or to cause any harm. They just don't do that. You also are constantly encircled. Everybody has 7 specific spirit guides, and their job is not only to guide you forward in your lifetime, their job is also to create like a little perimeter around you, and it keeps out any untowards energy. So untowards energy is not allowed to get close. That doesn't mean to say that you can't, be in a real boo-hoo mood the day before. COVID is a really good example right now of people being very selfish and self-absorbed. Forgive me for that, but I just said it. Okay?
Yeah.
It's so true, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's giving any consideration to anybody else in this right now. Everybody's kind of the whole human aspect is coming forward of self-preservation. So, I'm going to freak out on you in Zeller. Not Zellers, I guess they're so Zellers, Walmart, because you didn't have a mask over your nose, right? But if you kind of pull into the energy of that type of energy or that lower based energy, or if you're in a really angry mood or in a bad mood, you can pull in energies from the spirit side that will mirror that, okay?
Right.
So you'll get energies that come over. Let's say your Aunt Jean or something, she was just a miserable person in life, right?
Right.
So she's naturally going to be drawn to that type of energy in the physical world. So if you've got a teenager or somebody who's a bit sullen, that kind of stuff, she's the type of energy that will step in during the night just to say, hey, hey, friend, we think alike, right?
Right.
But by and large, no, completely. Energies from the spirit side, when they do connect to us, they're not intending to harm us. There's no harm. They're just connecting to something that feels familiar. That's all they're doing.
Interesting.
So nothing to be worried about. And people will always say to me, there's a black figure at the end of my bed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, can we just chill out just a little bit here? Let's relax. Spirit guides always come in black. Always, 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 always.
Okay.
Spirit guides always present as black figures. Always.
Huh. I really appreciate you sharing a lot of your insights. Laurie, did you have any questions for Tania before we jump into our Grill the Guest?
Well, I do want to bring something up.
Go for it.
Tania helped me with in a previous apartment. Tania, I'm sure you remember.
Oh, I do remember.
I think we should actually post
well.
the picture. We'll post the pictures on our socials. I caught something on picture. I caught one thing that I thought I caught one thing. I actually caught 2 things. And I didn't see the second thing until Tania said, well, what about this thing? I saw that thing. And then I almost took a heart attack and thought, I can't live here anymore. I actually moved out of that place.
She did.
But there was a room in one of the apartments I had. It was my library. And there was a lot of activity in that particular room. And we'll post it up there. But there was a picture. I was taking pictures of my dog because I do this all the time.
Right.
I have no life. We've already established that in previous episodes. I don't have a life. So if I'm not watching movies, I'm taking pictures of my dog. Okay. And so I'm taking a picture of my dog, and he's standing in front of the doorway to that library room.
Right.
And There was a chair in there, some bookshelves, etc. There's a baby gate separating the room because I didn't want him in there.
Right.
And as I'm lying in bed that night, flipping through my phone and all the thousands of pictures I'd taken that day of my dog, I saw this picture and I'm looking at it and all of a sudden my heart just dropped. You know that when you feel like you got kicked in the stomach because all of a sudden, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And above the baby gate, just beyond the doorway, is the chair. It's like an armchair.
Uh-huh.
There's a figure sitting in that chair. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. I live alone, except for the dog and cats. And that was not an animal shape. That was a human being shape in the chair. Oh, yeah. So I just casually flipped the picture to Tanya and said, hey, what the hell's this? And Tanya responded by saying, well, get up out of the bed. And I'm like, first of all, no. Get up out of bed and go check the wood on the door frame and see if it's just the knots in the wood. And I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
Wait a minute.
I have to do that first.
But I'm like, what are you talking about? The knots in the wood. And then she says to me, I'm not talking about the guy sitting in the chair in the other room. I'm talking about the face on the door frame. And I'm like, the what? So back to the picture. And I'm looking at this picture and I couldn't see it. And then she said, it's just above the top of the baby gate to the left on the wood.
Okay.
And then I saw it. And then I thought I was going to throw up in the bed because as soon as I saw it, could not unsee it.
I need to see this photo.
You do need to see this photo.
I'm surprised you've never seen it. Come on.
I know.
A week before this photo was taken, there in that room, I had a giant glass framed picture, probably like a 20, maybe 26 by, I don't know, 36, I don't know, big heavy glass picture on the wall. And one morning I woke up and that picture that was hanging on the wall overnight was about 6 feet away, gently resting against the wall.
Oh.
Yeah.
On the floor.
On the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was disturbed. It didn't fall off the wall because there was nothing disturbed underneath. And I had a shelf with all my DVDs and a lamp and picture frames. So if that picture had fallen off the wall, there would have been some disturbance of those items.
Right.
This was 6 feet away, gently leaning up against the wall.
That's not right. That doesn't add up.
My first thought was, I've been broken into. Because even though I believe in all this stuff, my first go-to is not, oh, look, there's a ghost. A ghost moved a picture. But I thought was, holy crap, I've been broken into overnight, and I slept through it. So I ran downstairs to the door, still dead bolted. So I ran upstairs I had a loft, and it was like 2 stories up. So there's no way someone's getting up through there, but I thought, I'm going to check anyway.
Right.
Dead bolted from the inside.
Okay.
Window. And I'm thinking, what is happening here? So I had 2 phone calls to make. I have a friend in town who was a police officer and the landlord who lived next door.
Okay.
Both of them had a key. And I thought either I'm being pranked big time or something is rotten in Denmark. So I made these phone calls. First to the police officer friend saying, hey, you didn't happen to come into my house overnight and move a picture off my wall, did you?
That's a phone call everyone expects, yeah.
Well, yeah. She's like, are you drunk at work? No. So then I called the landlord, who also had a key, who lived next door. And he's like, no, but I got to see this. So he came over and we CSI'd the whole thing. And he agreed. There's no way that thing slid off the wall without disrupting the stuff down here.
Right.
So that room was a hotbed of activity. And then I had said to him, and by the way, what are you doing hammering at 11 o'clock at night? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, last night, all the hammering. Because they were renovating the basement.
Okay.
In the apartment below me.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we haven't been in there since Monday. And this was a Thursday.
Okay.
And I'm like,
something's
who's hammering last night?
Something's banging up a storm.
Exactly. So that room was full.
The moral of the story is they were doing renos downstairs.
Yeah.
And
Which churned everything up, right?
yeah, the energy on the spirit side, they don't get uncomfortable with renos, but you start to move things around. And going back to what Laurie said about her police officer friend, who I happen to know, saying to her, "Are you drunk?" Right? Shifting things around during a renovation will disturb the spirit side because they come into that space every day, and they're accustomed to things being where they're supposed to be. So for them, it's almost just like we would go out and get drunk and then come home and somebody moved our couch. We go to sit down, it's not there, we hit the floor, right?
Right.
So when you're doing the renovations, this is why people have a tendency to pick up a lot more energy happening in the house, or the banging, or the moving, the painting. And I'm laughing at you as you're telling the story because you're like, nothing was disturbed below it. And I'm sitting here going, yes, honey. And it also somehow levitated 6 feet away. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't.
I don't want to think about that part. Because I was right there on the opposite of the wall while this is all going on. These ghosts are having a party in my apartment.
It's very unusual for them to move objects like that. It's extremely unusual for that to happen. It does take an awful lot of energy on their part for that to take place. It's not something that's common. So we don't want a whole rush of people coming, oh my God, my spoon moved. Do you know what I mean? Let's not do that. It is unusual, but Laurie has this tendency to invite all these energies around her. She has a tendency to do this because she's so intrigued.
Right.
It's not on purpose, not at all. But she tends to invite mischievous energies around her. It's mischief because that's Laurie. It's mischief, right?
Right.
So that's what she tends to get, are the ones that like to play little practical jokes, the ones that like to, get the dog fired up for no reason. But I mean, look at her dad. You've met her dad. You know where that's coming from.
Right. Yeah. So,
right?
So I know that this topic, you're one side of the fence or the other. I guess some people can kind of sit in the middle and be open to both sides, but I feel like for the most part, you either believe it or you don't. Rob, come on out here. Rob, what do you think? Is this something that you could get behind, or do you think we're just all full of hot air and have no idea what we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm probably the guy on the fence, actually.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be, though, Rob.
I'm sure I've seen my share of odd things that make you go, wait a minute. Deja vu. Everybody's experienced that. I think you find yourself in a situation that's, maybe familiar or boy, did I not see that coming, or et cetera, et cetera. But hey,
right.
It's very interesting, though, I must say.
You should be a skeptic. And that's what I teach the kids in the Paranormal Society. First thing, if you can debunk it, debunk it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first choice always, is to never assume it's paranormal. Find a logical, rational explanation. But only when you can't, then entertain the idea that maybe something outside of the ordinary here.
Exactly.
Right. And most people get so excited about it, they want it to be something, so they force it on it. And instead of having that kind of open, or the skeptical side of things. Well, I want to jump into our Grill the Guest because we're hitting about 45 minutes in our episode right now. So, Tania, are you ready for a quick quiz?
Oh, God. Okay. With the brain that doesn't move very quick. Okay, go for it.
All right. So let's, I don't know if we're doing we still haven't decided if it's a little timer, a little clicker, or what going on in the background there. But Rob, set the timer going there. All right. So first question, Tania, how do you take your coffee?
Milk with 2 sugars and strong.
Okay. Peanut butter and jam or peanut butter banana?
Oh, peanut butter banana.
Okay.
Red wine or white wine?
Neither.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
What do you prefer then?
Books? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
What do you have as a nice drink?
When I drink?
Yeah.
Usually some fancy martini.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever the flavor of the day is.
Have you had a chocolate one?
I have. I find them too sweet. I don't know. It's just
okay. All right.
Chocolate in liquid form. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to talk.
Cotton candy martini is the best. So good.
Okay. Stephen King books or Stephen King movies?
Stephen King books.
Yeah.
Favorite Pop-Tart flavor?
Oh gosh, strawberry.
Cats or dogs?
Cats, even though I have 2 dogs, don't tell them.
Hey, pineapple on pizza, is that a yay or a nay?
Absolutely. As
Oh.
much as you can put on there.
End
Awesome.
the episode. End the episode.
I'm with you. Jason or Freddie?
Jason, he's more, I don't know, psychological.
Ooh.
Freddie's too predictable.
What's your favorite board game?
Battleship. It's not a board game, but it's Battleship all the way. Love that
It
game.
counts.
Cool.
It counts.
Yeah.
Lemonade or iced tea?
Iced tea.
Sugar cone or waffle cone?
Oh, waffle. Yeah.
Okay. 80s music or 90s music?
I have to say 80s.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm both. I get about 3 hours of sleep a night.
Oh, dear.
I'm up early and I go to bed at like 3. So
When you hang your toilet paper, does the toilet paper go over the front or over the back?
over the front. Oh my God, it has to go over the front.
Hot dogs or hamburgers?
Totally hot dogs.
What's your current TV show binge?
That shoot, what's it called? The Bridgerton.
Yeah?
Is it Bridgerton?
Bridgerton, yeah?
Okay.
The period one. I love that movie. That show. It's great.
Good.
Raw onions or fried onions?
What did you say? Raw or fried?
Yeah,
Onions.
Oh, fried. Fried. Yeah.
fried onions. Okay.
Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi. Don't tell my family that. They work for Coke.
Beans in chili or chili without beans?
Chili without.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Oh no.
Yes.
Beans with chili. Chili without. Yeah.
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 Hash browns or home fries?
Hash browns.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny?
Bugs Bunny.
Dill pickles or sweet pickles?
Oh, definitely sweet pickles.
All right.
That's all I have.
Mhm.
That's the end of Grill the Guest.
Grill the
Oh my God, that was fun.
That was fun, right?
I'm awake now.
And I will let you know you answered all the questions correctly.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Pineapple on the pizza.
Oh yeah, except for that. How dare I forget so
I like that
quickly.
answer.
I thought you might.
I would have preferred dill pickle though. That would have been my preference for you, but
I can't do that. I just kind
can't
of
win them all.
makes my face go funny.
Oh.
I'm sorry, my cat
Good.
has been weaving in and out of this here ever since Tanya came on. I don't know if there's a correlation there or whatever.
It's because I
he's-
love cats.
He's moving my lights.
Uh-huh.
He's trying to bite the laptop. I don't know. So if you see me reaching around here or it sounds gone weird, my idiot
what-
cat is
I
doing.
thought she was trying to get rid of her ghosts. Go away.
Go, 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 get out of here. Go. So my
All
dog's
right.
been barking and my cat's been being nuts. Anyway, Tanya, thank you so much for
You're
joining
welcome
us.
so much.
And I
You
hope
guys,
you'll
that was
come
fun.
back. Will
Yeah,
you come back and do another episode with us?
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Hey,
Awesome.
Tanya, so if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and wanted to talk to you further, what would be the best way somebody could connect with you?
They can email me through my website. So the website is taniathomasthemedium.com.
Wonderful.
We'll put that on our socials.
We're going to share that on our social
Yeah,
media. Laurie and I would both recommend if you are looking for that, Tanya would be a wonderful help for you in that area. So by all means, reach out. As we all know now, Tanya is a wonderful person and a wonderful guest. So I certainly hope you do consider coming back and joining us one day because I think we have a lot
I
more
will.
stories we can share. But in the meantime,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us. To all of our followers, please join us on social media. Share your spooky stories, things that you've experienced. Do you have the gift? Can you feel these things as well? Share with us. While you're at it, also share with us you enjoying your morning cup of coffee and tag Out for Coffee with Mike and Laurie. Until next time, we hope you guys are keeping well and staying safe. And thank you so much for coming out for coffee.
With Mike and Laurie.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Do you have questions, comments, or ideas for a future show? Reach out to Mike and Laurie on their social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email us at mikeandlauriesocials@gmail.com.